very special guest right now. We have former NFL MVP running back for the Seattle Seahawks, longtime NFL veteran, Shaun Alexander. He is here today on behalf of Café Momentum, an award-winning nonprofit initiative that provides 12-month paid internships and life-changing support to young people exiting the Juvenile Justice System. First off, thank you so much for joining us here today. Looking forward to talking with you and talking about the initiatives that you're involved with.
Yeah, you know what? I've been so excited to be a part of Café Momentum. You know, when I saw Chef Chad, who's the award-winning chef that helped get all this started, I thought, my goodness, the impact you're having on these kids is so powerful. We should put this in every NFL city, and so we started on that chase, and we just broke ground for Nashville and for Pittsburgh, and we're going to announce the fourth city tomorrow night. And then we've got plans for 5, 6, and 7. So It's pretty exciting.
When I see a lot of shirts around here, building momentum, I think too, when we talk about the youth, they're the future of our entire, life ahead of us.
That's right.
And, for me, I'm a former teacher and I worked with youth that were exiting the juvenile justice system. So when I heard about this, I was like, this is super exciting. I'm good for it because I feel like a lot of the youth in our communities here today, they needed that second chance because they don't always get the opportunities that maybe other kids do, and their circumstances are different. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to partner up with something like this?
I just saw kids that really didn't have the opportunity. You would take the kid that actually sparked it all. He wins the culinary contest. Against kids in the culinary school. He runs over to Chad and says, "Man, I want to be a chef just like you. Where should I work? Taco Bell or Wendy's?" You're like, huh? And so the idea of being bigger or going farther or actually, in the simple sense, working at a real restaurant compared to a fast food chain, when you don't even know that difference and you try to judge that kid by the same standards that you would for someone else says, hey, let's go make something out of yourself. There's nothing wrong with working at either one of those places. But if you think that's the goal, then you might actually miss because, you just don't know. And so I was really proud by watching the ecosystem they put around these kids, social workers, psychologists, after-school teachers, after-school programs, development coaches, you get the whole thing around. And you're just putting a bunch of aunties and uncles. There's always an auntie and uncle that's like, baby, that ain't you,
Yeah.
That's what Café Momentum did for these kids. And you're just seeing success at a very high level.
Well, just the amount of growth, too, that you imagine that Café Momentum will provide to communities, especially with underserved youth. We talk about initiatives with students and young adults exiting out of the juvenile justice system, but it's also the access to be able to play sports, things like that. Not a lot of people get the opportunity to do that. So I think that this is a fantastic cause. Yeah. Now, real quick, I want to talk football just for a moment here. Okay. Now, you back in 2006, you kind of broke my heart a little bit. I was a kid at the time. I was a youngin'. You were playing the Denver Broncos Sunday Night Football in Denver, and you guys came forth. You actually put together a really impressive drive, scored a touchdown that sealed the game to give Seattle the 23-20 win.
Yeah.
I remember that, but I remember watching you as a kid growing up, just how dynamic of a player you were. Yeah. And not to mention, you did things the right way on the field and off the field, and that's just a pillar of what you're continuing to do here today.
You know what? I actually remember that game. It was crazy. We were in a crazy season. One of our kids, so we just had our 12th child. Baby number 12 was at the house, baby Alexander. And when we were at our second oldest, who's now 16, she had gotten sick. And so when I drove into the house, I saw an ambulance truck in front of that house. And so I'll never forget that Denver game is because a little kid walked up to me and said, "Hey, can I give you a Bible verse?" And I was like, yeah. And the Bible verse, I don't remember what it was now, but it was about not fearing anything that you go through. And so I come back and my wife takes the baby to the hospital. She's freaked out of her mind. Baby turns out great. She's 16 and doing wonderful. But we get back to the house and she was writing in her little journal this Bible verse that her grandma had given her, and it was the same Bible verse.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a story there.
Yeah.
Faith is obviously a huge thing too. I think we see a lot of athletes talk about how their faith, has driven them, for their careers, but even off the field. What are you doing in your day-to-day outside of this that allows you to really find and be ingrained in your faith?
I just realized, one of my favorite verses is John 15:16, and Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he said, "You didn't choose me, I chose you, and I've made you to bear great fruit, and the fruit will last." And so it just always stirs me, I'm the one that's chosen. You know what I mean? Like, I got 4 older brothers. All of them are better athletes than me. You know what I mean? They're all good looking. They're all smart. They're all charming. And he chose the younger, good looking one. I'm like, well, that's cool. And I think about like the dream team. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think of, you know, the first one, Magic and Michael and you know, and Ewing and Barkley and Bird. And I'm thinking those were like the 11 best players. Oh, and Christian Laettner. You know what I mean? And I just thought, like, what did Christian Laettner really have to do? He was just chosen. You know what I mean? All you had to do is show up, do what he's supposed to do. He didn't have to do anything great. And I just think that's what I think about when it comes to faith. Like, man, I'm just going to show up and do what I know I'm supposed to do.
Well, you're doing a lot of amazing things here with Café Momentum,
Yeah.
impacting the lives of the youth in our community, especially coming out of the Juvenile Justice System,
Yep.
where they enter into a world where people will look at them differently, but they don't have to be defined by the mistakes that they make when they're younger. And I feel like that's something that we always should emphasize with the kids that we work with. Because at one age, remember, when we're kids, we're told, don't touch the stove. Why?
Yeah.
It's hot. We still do it.
Yep.
It burns. You know, the opportunities to be able to learn from your mistakes is critical in life.
Yeah, I mean, and who would want to be judged while you're learning? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, all of us could be like, how many of y'all would say, I'm never going to do this again, and you do it again? You're right? You know what I mean? I don't even want to hear those stories, you know what I mean? But here the kids, like, sometimes they get judged by that for the rest of their lives, and you're like, man, I don't want to be judged by anything I did before I was 19. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm not who I was then. And
Yeah.
obviously, growth in life is super important. It's also optional in the choices we make there. You're doing a lot to empower the youth in our community. And ladies and gentlemen, Shaun Alexander, a fantastic human being on and off the field. We'll always remember his time, his impact as an NFL rusher, but we will remember him for what he does for the youth in our community with Café Momentum.